Mike, welcome to Failing Upward Club. This is the first time we're recording. This is our first introduction into what is the Failing Upward Club. This isn't something we've scripted or put down, but welcome. This is an exciting place to be for many different reasons. How are you feeling? How do you feel starting to talk about something without saying, hi, welcome to Data Conversations? What's the vibe?
Yeah, well, good, I guess. I think a lot's happened in the last couple of months. I guess it feels like I'm kind of sitting on the therapist's couch here, but yeah, I guess the intent of the intent of this, whatever this is and whatever it becomes, is to just sort of not let good learnings go by the wayside. Obviously, a lot's happened over the last kind of 2 to 3 months on the business front, which no doubt we'll be talking about in more depth, but really the intent with whatever this is and the Failing Upward Club was really to acknowledge that it's a fairly common, I guess, catchphrase that the best learnings come through failures. We've just had a pretty big one in our eyes, certainly the biggest business failure that I've ever kind of been through personally, and I'm probably would suggest that it's the same for you, and kind of a failing of a baby that we both felt incredibly passionate about, and I guess we put a lot of our own personal time and energy and kind of faces behind. So yeah, that's kind of it. We're licking the wounds in public, we're learning together, and kind of importantly, we'll hopefully at the end of all of this get to a position where we're thinking about what might be next over the rainbow. So yeah.
No, it's a great way to kick us off, Mike. And for those who are listening, you don't know the story, Mike and I are two of the co-founders of a company called Dataco Labs, which was a startup out of Australia, which really came out of a corporate venture capital background with ANZ Bank. And we've recently gone through what is probably a very common path for the majority of startups that come into this world, which is the ultimate kind of collapse and failure of that business. You see all the content on LinkedIn in particular, with everyone beating their chest and kind of self-promoting and saying how good everything went, and this is how I exited a $50 million business, or whatever the storyline is. The truth is, not all businesses go that way, and ours certainly didn't for a range of different reasons. And one of the reflections we took going out of the process of what's happened was the importance of reflecting on what we did, what happened to date, and sharing those learnings, maybe for people to listen along to at home, or to be honest, even as you said, Mike, it's kind of part therapy. I think for us to think about what's next, being able to look back and say, fuck, that was something we did well, or something we didn't do well, is super important. Because there's a lot of details around the failure of Dataco. While the end wasn't ideal and were a lot of different external things coming to play, the truth is there's got to be things that we didn't do right along this journey, because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here in this position. So I think a lot of this, Mike, will be us having a reflection. We'll be putting different content together. This is just one of the arms, I think, of the Failing Upward Club. And as you said, who knows where this lands? Maybe it'll probably land where we think it's going to land, which is in your mum's podcast feed, and my Auntie Heather overseas in the UK. So thanks for listening in, Auntie.
Love it, Danny. Well, maybe you do a good job. You've been a part of many sales conversations, selling the dream of what Dataco had become over the years. But maybe for the purpose of today's content, do you want to kind of go back and give us the kind of 3-minute overview of where the business came from and kind of ultimately what the ambition had become?
Yeah, I think for all of the content, the reflections we're going to make going forward, it is important to have that background. And when you say a startup, when you talk about being founders, you talk about all those different concepts. They can mean a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different types of startups. And I think the type of startup we had is incredibly important to the story and the journey. And really the type of startup we were was really on the borderline between the startup ecosystem and corporate innovation and corporate venture capital, which is kind of one of those mechanisms which bridges between the two of those. So we started our life not in a garage and bootstrapping and sitting around with pizza with like old school computers crammed around a desk. We came out of this kind of corporate innovation space with one of the large banks in Australia. We won't obviously go into all the details as we go through all of this because there's different sensitivities around that, but it's going to be clear which large blue bank in Australia that has a three-letter acronym as the title is going to be. But really the space that it was with, I don't know why I said that, Mike. Why don't I just fucking say the name of the bank? It's ANZ Bank. It's ANZ Bank for those listening on at home. I'm allowed to say ANZ Bank, and I'm going to talk to other things.
I don't think, of all the things that are going to be said, I don't know if that's the one that would get you in trouble, Danny.
No, I think that one's fine to say. I think that was very clear. We could put ANZ tattoos on our foreheads if we wanted to. Maybe we can... No, don't put the branding on. But the whole space that we came around was a concept which was public in market called 1835I. And 1835I started its life inside the bank really as this space to invest in startups that provided value to ANZ and its banking ecosystem, and ultimately not just think about investment, but think about building. And as part of their venture capital arm, they had this venture labs style concept. And the whole idea was, if working with the bank and kind of looking out to market, if there was ever a space where they could see an area in the market where there was a capability that the bank wanted, but there wasn't a suitable partner to work with or to invest in, that they could build a proposition and spin out a business to meet that need and also to then go and externally kind of exist in market. So it was very much in this incubator space. It was about taking concepts and ideas which maybe start somewhere on the borderline between either that lab specifically or ideas in the bank and kind of turn them into something which is a business in its own right. So it wasn't something which started from just thinking about an idea and saying, oh, here's something you want to go and pitch inside. We actually used to work inside that lab capability. And so we were part of the initial kind of team, which was kind of yourself, me, and a gentleman called Rami Mukhtar, very early on, who started thinking about how this data collaboration space, what needed to happen to allow the bank to collaborate better with its partners, essentially. So our whole history started from thinking about how the bank could better build and power its collaborative ecosystem with partners, how it could use data in more effective ways to create value for themselves and their partners, and ultimately getting to a point where he said, there's no solutions that do what we want to do. Everything that we want to do to pull these things together, we don't see that anywhere. All the vendors who came to us had little bits and pieces of things which were cool, but didn't really fill all the gaps. And we said, hey, rather than trying to just sticky tape a couple of things together, it really makes sense, and we have to go through all of that kind of competing priorities. Why don't we build something from the ground up that takes all the learnings around what's good, what's not good, and what we really want to do? So in effect, we nearly started by being the client looking for a solution to start with, and then using this corporate innovation kind of pathway to say, what we're thinking about building here, though, isn't just for this one bank and its ecosystem. This concept could be applied to so many organizations in so many different markets. So the beginnings of our life were like a very different journey, I think, from a startup perspective. And we'll see those themes coming through a lot of the other topics as we go through the series and we start talking through the different kind of angles of the business and what the implications have. But I think that core angling of kind of starting a business through this corporate venture capital lens really is so pivotal to our ultimate journey.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary, Danny. And I think, as you said, as you alluded to there, just to give a bit of a roadmap on where we think we might go, what we're looking to unpack is kind of the different components or functional pieces of the business creation journey that we went through over a series of both kind of blog posts, written content, as well as discussions on this podcast or whatever gets released. So functional areas like, designing the value proposition, testing and proving product market fit, working through a sales and go-to-market overview. And we spent a lot of time building and developing a partner ecosystem, which I think is very common for a lot of kind of technology startups, very common in the CVC space as well, or corporate innovation domain. So I think some great learnings that I've taken away from that on the things we did really well and the things we might tweak in the future. Obviously, a big part of our solution was quite deep and innovative technology that will go into data, product, people, and other things along the way.
Yeah, and I think part of the concept of going through those different areas is to put that critical lens on what didn't work. And there's a lot of things that happen with what did work. It's like when you work in the startup space, and when people talk about startups and their current company publicly, it's very easy to just be sunshine and rainbows and look how good we are, and you have to sell this kind of confidence. There's a certain nature to that from a sales perspective and wanting to be shown to be strong. And I think what's fortunate about this position is it doesn't matter if Dataco looks strong at this point in time. Like, that thing is done. That decision has been made one way or another. Those clients are off. That technology has been like nuked. We'll probably get into that, I'm sure, in another time. The day to blow up your platform that you spent years building is a really strange process to go through. But I think going and just questioning some of these certain things that we just definitely didn't get right, and pointing to where it does, where we did get right as well, we won't completely be negative, I think, through here. I think part of the concept of failing upwards is thinking about improvement and taking learnings forward, but it is a really good time for us to be able to go and reflect on what didn't work and what happened. I think the other aspect to it all, from my side at least, Mike, would be there's a lot of things I feel that you see in the classic startup books, and I don't even know what it's called anymore. What's it called? Lean Startup? What's that book called, Mike?
Yeah, Lean Startup.
Yeah, Lean Startup. Yeah, I feel like everyone in that corporate space and everyone's trying to think about startup, they're all looking at reading the Lean Startup and they're like, oh, I know how to build a business. And the reality is you just don't. Until you do it, you have no idea. And you can have the frameworks, but it's something about going through the lived experience of trying to do fucking sales or trying to execute marketing or working through the cash flow, that it's not until you do it that you look back at some of those books and materials and you're like, that's what that meant. Or you say, actually, that was complete BS. Just because someone says that you only have to focus on this tiny little kind of space of the market and be ruthless at launching a feature doesn't mean that's the only way to build a business. There's so many ways to build a business and there's so many things to learn along the journey. I think it's going to be good to just break down some of those thoughts and ideas and get into the detail.
Love it. Well, that might be a good place to put a little full stop on the introduction.
I don't want to end just quite yet, Mike. Why are you trying to wrap us up, mate? This is only the first episode. Mate, I do want to wrap up in a second, but I just want to ask one spicy question. Let me just get one question in. This is what I think we missed in data conversations a little bit, Mike. We didn't get enough just time back and forth between us. We were just sitting back trying to ask someone else.
This is what I was hoping to avoid.
Which theme are you the most excited about unpacking, and which theme do you think will have the spiciest takes and lessons?
Most excited about, I mean, it's my kind of natural sort of leaning, I would say, probably like the sales and go-to-market and the partner ecosystem side. I think there's a lot of, for me personally, I think there's a lot of great learnings there, and that's probably where my leanings are. The spicy side, I think ownership becomes like a really interesting conversation. I think that's pretty clear why that becomes a pretty interesting conversation. But I really think it's the combination of the broader structure that you've articulated in the opening, then overlaying the pressures around sales and go-to-market on account of the structure of the business and the objectives of the business, and frankly the game we thought we were playing in the business for a long period of time. And when some of those sands start to shift, you realize how important the structure of the business and the ownership can become. So maybe, how about you, Danny? What are you looking forward to, and where's the spicy takes?
It's hard not going to the ownership kind of incentive structure when it comes to spicy takes, I think. I don't know if we're going to get away from that, but it drives a lot. Yeah, I'm looking forward to breaking down into some of that, because it flows into so many other areas of the business, and what you're trying to incentivize for and what you're trying to drive for and those end implications. But yeah, we'll get into different parts of the story as we go along. But the reality is, if you don't own the business, you don't own the business. Like, that's the summary of it. And equity and ownership structures and all of those things are really complex. And it's an easy thing to say, let's work this out later. And I think that's probably in a few different aspects of the business. Just saying you're going to work it out later doesn't always come to fruition. So I think there's going to be a lot to learn there. I do agree with your whole sales angle. I think there's that old kind of startup adage around first time founders focus on products, second time founders focus on distribution.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's a saying, and yeah, I guess we'll break it. I think what's going to be good about going into that is challenging. It's not that black and white. It's definitely not that black and white, and there's different situations, like definitely the one we found ourselves in, where you can't do that because of ownership, because of incentives, because of what you need to do in terms of what success looks like. So no, I think those are some good spicy takes. I don't think I'll throw any other questions for you now. You can maybe wrap up, Mike. It's now the right time. I've given you the green light now. Do you want to wind us up for today?
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying 5 minutes ago, I think that's a nice place to put the full stop, the bookmark, whatever you want to call it, for this one. And we'll say goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. We look forward to wherever this goes. So, soon.